At Thanksgiving, Mom mocked me in front of 28 relatives. I calmly said, I got into Harvard. Full scholarship. 28 relatives watched her freeze. My mother admired Claire's route. Claire wore cardigans and long skirts to the library on Friday nights without makeup. I partied, wore miniskirts and crop shirts and used winged eyeliner. My mother hoped Claire would be a doctor and I barely graduated high school. Mom compared us every day. When I went out with friends, she'd remark, Claire would never dress like that because she had self-respect. She implied Claire was studying for her future while I threw mine away. When I was on my phone, she'd say Claire rarely used social media since she was goal-oriented. I ranked second in class with a 3.95 GPA. Mom never asked about my grades, therefore I didn't tell her. They were bad due of my clothes, she thought. I was debate team president, National Honor Society member, and early admission to 4 Ivy League universities. Mom skipped my award ceremonies because she assumed I wasn't winning. Driving Claire to study groups at her boyfriend Ethan's house was too much. Mom thought Claire did academic decathlon 4 nights a week. Ethan's parents never checked her in his flat. Mom brags to friends about Claire's dedication while Claire is distracted. Mom would tout Claire as the family's future success and tell relatives not to expect much from me. She replied, at least I was pretty, so maybe I'd marry well. Mom laughed and said we don't talk about my grades, meaning they were awful. Mom stroked Claire's head and said she was good for supporting her younger sister when she defended me. Claire spotted my real grades when I put my report cards on the kitchen counter to gain Mom's attention. She'd claim she was proud of me since Mom wouldn't. Mom never questioned Claire for her scores since she appeared so concentrated, even though she barely passed her subjects. The event started at Thanksgiving dinner with extended family. Mom was giving her annual speech about Claire's bright future and praying I wouldn't get pregnant and hide on school. That was her exact remark to 28 relatives. She stated Claire's study habits will pay off but my mail and dress preoccupation would fail. Claire vomited on the turkey. Mom rushed her to the bathroom, thinking she had food sickness. When the vomiting returned the next morning and the next, Mom took Claire to the doctor. Claire was 4 months pregnant. Mom was quiet as the doctor confirmed. Because Claire had no partner, she said it was wrong. She joined all study groups. Claire said Ethan existed and study groups were bogus. Claire revealed it to the family despite Mom's efforts. The family who heard Mom's Thanksgiving speech about Claire's bright future and my possible adolescent pregnancy heard about Claire dropping out of college to have a baby. Meanwhile, my early acceptance letters arrived. Mom ignored my message since she expected rejection. The mailman notified our neighbor who told Mom about Harvard's acceptance package. She thought it was a mistake, but learned that I was accepted and received a full academic scholarship. I hid Yale, Princeton and Stanford acceptance letters in my room because I was tired of her disinterest. My 4-year transcripts showed straight A's, 98th percentile SAT scores, and instructors' letters calling me their best student. She yelled at me for concealing this. She never inquired and felt I failed because of my short skirts. She blamed me for not notifying her, but I showed her 4 years of report cards she'd never seen. She saw my award ceremony emails she never opened. My photos were from academic competitions she missed while taking Claire to fake study sessions. To preserve face, Mom was proud of me instantly. She hugged me and announced my Harvard admission. I backed off before she touched me. After years of warning my family I'd barely graduate high school, I told her she couldn't be proud. The room was quiet. Over 28 relatives witnessed Claire hold her baby stomach with Mom's arms between us. Nobody moved, breathed or spoke. Mom opened her mouth but said nothing. She tried to make this better, but she couldn't. Her Thanksgiving dinner remarks from an hour earlier was known by everybody. Everyone knew her years-long criticism of me. Margaret rose from her dinner table. She reminded everyone that Mom said she hoped I wouldn't get pregnant before high school at Thanksgiving. She talked quietly but aggressively. She remembered Mom said that when Claire was 4 months pregnant. Families shifted and looked at their plates. They remembered Mom's prediction of Claire's success and my fate. Uncle Robert gulped and examined his hands. My cousin Emily gazed at Mom like a stranger, which I'd never seen. Mom became red, then white. Mom cried and claimed she loved us equally. Her voice was shaky and loud. She said she never meant to hurt me. She fretted over my future. I took out my phone silently. My email to Mom about award ceremonies over the past 4 years was seen by Margaret. She saw red receipts when I switched the screen. We read all emails. Mom studied debate team finals. National Honor Society induction was read. She read about my regional academic decathlon win. She opened every message but never responded or appeared. Margaret checked my phone emails. Reading changed her face. She glanced at Mom in dismay, making Mom cry harder. Margaret quietly answered my call. Claire abruptly rose. She told Mom not to discuss her distress. Her voice was never so loud. She begged for mercy for being caught since Mom made me feel useless for years. Everyone stared at Claire because she never contradicted Mom. She never screamed or insulted. Claire seemed to strike Mom's face. She grabbed Claire but she ran. Claire leaned forward as Ethan caressed her back. Mom lowered her hands. Her tears increased as she looked about at the relatives watching her. No one comforted her. Nothing said it was okay or she meant well. They watched her cry while sitting. I exited the dining room. Closed my upstairs bedroom door. Everybody downstairs was talking louder and overlapping. I watched the wall from bed. My hands trembled. After holding it in for so long, speaking it in public felt awkward. Stairsteps were heard after 25 minutes. Claire entered after 2 knocks. She lounged on my bed without saying. She apologized for not protecting me more. When Mom commended her while condemning me, she felt awful. She knew it was horrible but couldn't stop without worsening it. Mom shouldn't be fixed, I told her. She said she should have tried harder. Claire stated she knew I was smart since freshman year. The counter had my first report card, which I'd left for Mom. She realized Mom's story about us was backwards after seeing my straight A's and her C's. She constantly told Mom I was doing well in school. She'd say my teacher liked me over dinner or in the car or that I had good grades. Mom stroked her head and changed the subject. My mom said Claire was kind for defending her sister, but I needed realistic objectives. Claire always felt queasy. She quit because Mom didn't want to hear it. We discussed everything for 3 hours. Claire stated she was tired of lying and was glad the pregnancy got out. For 18 months, she planned fake study groups and academic processes. Claire recoiled as Mom boasted about Claire's dedication to friends. Ethan and the baby were important to her, but she was scared about parenting at 20. She was also tired of being Mom's ideal daughter. She called Mom's performance ill-fitting. She stopped breathing. I explained that I'd been hiding too, but differently. We grieved and laughed at our broken family. Claire asked my school choice, favoring Harvard. She excitedly grabbed my phone off the bed. She Googled Boston and looked at university and city photographs. She said Ethan had Massachusetts relatives. They considered moving to start anew and be themselves without others' expectations. Hopeful, she remarked. Maybe we could see each other more if they moved to Boston. I could babysit between classes. Claire's presence in my niece or nephew's life lifted me. Mom cooked my favorite breakfast as if nothing had happened. She made blueberry pancakes with my special syrup downstairs. She smiled and asked whether I wanted orange juice or milk as I entered. I observed her mom routine from the doorway. No more pretending everything was fine, I told her. She should have recognized her behavior, not simply being a mom. Her smile evaporated. After turning off heat, pancakes cooled. My meaning was questioned. I said making breakfast wasn't apologizing or understanding her fault. Mom sat at the kitchen table. She asked what to say. The sharpness in her remarks made me angry again. That was the trouble, I told her. She still didn't get. I didn't want her to say anything rehearsed. I didn't want her empty apologies to encourage me. She should understand her mistakes. I wanted her to know she'd spent years judging me by my clothes and predicting my future without asking. She stared at me like I spoke another language. Her mouth opened and closed. She didn't react after waiting. Walked upstairs with a cabinet granola bar. I spent all day on my phone in my room, trying to forget the chilly pancakes below. There were 2:45 p.m. footsteps up the stairs. Claire knocked twice before entering. She looked fatigued with a messy hairstyle and one of Ethan's old sweatshirts on. She breathed deeply on my bed without prompting. She'd move in with Ethan in 6 weeks. Mom would snap, but she didn't care. She was sick of being Mom's perfect kid. She accepted to live with Ethan when I asked. She said Ethan's parents were helping them find a 3-bedroom apartment near work. Though they didn't enjoy the pregnancy, they supported her. Mom walked up the stairs. Claire widened my door as Mom approached the stairs. Like usual, Mom asked whether we wanted supper. Claire told her in the hallway she was leaving in 6 weeks. Mom paled. Claire stopped her from claiming she couldn't live with a man. She said she was an adult making her own choices, not showing off Mom's pretty doll. Mom mouthed and closed. Claire dropped and passed her. I heard the front door close a minute later. The next week, relatives phoned me frequently. My mom ignored me at family gatherings, so I rarely spoke to them. Diane called Tuesday when I was studying. She stated I was clever on Harvard and always thought so. She regretted not speaking up when Mom criticized me at family gatherings. Mom would change the topic or make a joke after numerous tries, making it awkward to continue. I told her I didn't blame her for Mom's choices. Thanksgiving showed her how harmful silence can be, so she resolved to speak up more. 4 more relatives called that week with similar warnings. They thought I was fine or Mom exaggerated. No one acknowledged its constancy or influence on me. My cousin asked whether I was okay and hesitated before continuing. For my college choice papers, I met with my guidance counselor Monday morning. Mrs. Thompson's workplace contained motivational posters and coffee fragrance. My computer file acceptances made her smile. She thought I'd select Harvard since its pre-law program suited my debate skills. In one recommendation letter, she praised my pressure arguing. Compare financial aid packages. She politely asked about my home life as I was distracted. She appeared skeptical when I told her everything was fine. She told me she'd heard about Thanksgiving from the parent network and was always willing to talk. I told her everything. Years of comparisons, ignored triumphs, Claire's pregnant tragedy, and my simultaneous admission letters. Mrs. Thompson listened silently. Her desk drawer yielded a family therapy pamphlet when I finished. Success was difficult without family support, she said. High-achieving students' families used to struggle with their success. She wrote 3 family communication therapists on a sticky note. Unsure if I'd use it, I tucked the note in my backpack. Mother knocked on my door 3 days after dinner. She suggested I join Claire and her in family therapy. She scheduled a Saturday morning session with Mrs. Thompson's recommended therapist. She stated she called the school for resources when I asked how she got that name. I questioned everything. Mom would act worried when others were observing but revert to her old ways when not. Claire texted me later that night saying Mom had invited her and we should try to see if she was serious about changing. I agreed to one session to see what happened. Saturday morning was strange. Drive quietly to the therapist. The waiting room offers nice seats and unread books. A 60-year-old woman called 12 minutes later. She took us to a couch and 2 office seats as Dr. Eleanor Park. Mom soon took leadership of the discussion, explaining why we were there and wanting to improve communication. Dr. Eleanor Park raised her hand after 2 minutes of listening. She liked hearing why we were there from each of us. Claire mentioned perfectionist pressure. Then I described years of rejection and judgment. Mom interrupted 3 times, but Eleanor Park intervened. Mom said she worried about my future and wanted the best for us. As she fretted about my academic prospects, Dr. Eleanor Park wondered why she never checked my grades. That puzzled Mom. Workouts become harder later. Dr. Eleanor Park's inquiries caught Mom. Dr. Eleanor Park always posed a specific question that disproved Mom's explanations. Mom said she was protecting me, so Dr. Eleanor Park asked. Mom worried I'd become like her sister, who partied through high school and barely graduated. Dr. Eleanor Park never asked about my life or studies. How could she tell my success or failure? Mom's wrinkled face. She assumed I was her sister since we dressed alike and went to parties. Dr. Eleanor Park wants to know how irrational that assumption was. Mom nodded, sobbing. Claire shared her years of unwanted pedestalization with Dr. Eleanor Park. Claire felt overwhelmed by Mom's praise for studying and diligence. She faked study groups to breathe and be a normal adolescent, not Mom's perfect daughter. She couldn't handle Mom's constant praise, which seemed like pressure to be perfect. Dr. Eleanor Park asked Mom whether she realized her treatment of both daughters affected them. Mom whispered yes. To the doctor I said I spent 4 years secretly achieving since Mom didn't care. Only my appearance mattered. The only thing that matters is my appearance, and whether Mom considers me successful. I stopped seeking Mom's approval because being ignored hurt too much. Mom was questioned by Dr. Eleanor Park how her assumptions impacted both girls. Mom wailed silently, nodding. Dr. Eleanor Park said the first session was good because everyone was honest. She assigned communication assignments and scheduled a 3-week consultation. I got to the car quietly after the session. Mom wept for 12 minutes before starting the car. I waited in the back seat with Claire. Mom finally noticed us. She regretted much yet tried to improve. Her voice cracked on the last phrase. Not knowing what to say, I didn't answer. Claire took my hand. Mom started the car and we headed home quietly. Strange days followed that car trip. Mom would enter my room in the morning and ask what I planned for the day, then wait for an answer like she'd never done it before. She'd nod and ask prepared questions when I mentioned debate practice or homework. She inquired about our argument or assignment. She was clearly trying to appear engaged, not judgmental. She did it daily, even though it seemed forced and uncomfortable, like reading a script we hadn't studied. She inquired about my studies, friends, and debate teams. She listened instead of comparing me to Claire or condemning my decisions. Talk grew less awkward after 3 weeks. She tried, but I didn't trust it. Claire and Ethan came over for dinner Friday night 4 weeks following therapy. Claire said Mom prepared the table and served Ethan's favorite lasagna. Mom presented the food with a tight grin and shaking hands. Ethan thanked her for hosting and admired the cuisine. She asked about his warehouse job and whether he and Claire had an apartment. She spoke calmly and politely while knowing she was dying, seeing her pregnant 20-year-old daughter with her lover she'd found a month before. Ethan told her about a 3-bedroom property near his job. Instead of judging them, Mom asked basic rent and neighborhood questions. Claire kept staring at me like she couldn't believe Mom was civil. Mom asked if they needed any furnishings for the new apartment after supper because she had enough in the garage. It was small, but progress. Harvard sent a huge package 3 days later with funding. As Mom made coffee, I opened it at the kitchen table. The award covered tuition and most room and board, but books, fees, and other expenses cost $7,500 annually. Mom noticed the figures over my shoulder while I read the breakdown. She offered to help me immediately, saying she had college funds. Set the papers down and told her I needed time to contemplate accepting her money. Though sad, she nodded. I took the envelope to my room and stared at the numbers for an hour, trying to decide if taking her money meant forgiving her or being practical. Claire appeared at my bedroom door that night without warning. Sitting on my bed, she asked if I was okay. I gave her financial aid documents. She read them before looking at me. She suggested I take Mom's money because she had it, and it was a tangible way for her to support my future, instead of just talking about it. Mom dropped out after paying nearly $28,000 for her first year of school, Claire said. She suggested Mom invest in my education since I'd need it. Claire advised me not to let pride prevent me from attending my dream school. She claimed taking practical help wasn't pretending to be fine. I thought about it after she left. Claire was right that Mom had the money and it made sense, but I didn't want her to think she could buy her way out of responsibility. Mom was in the kitchen when I went downstairs the next morning. I accepted her Harvard scholarship, but I wanted her to know it didn't erase our past. This was educational aid, not forgiveness or rebirth. Mother nodded after staring at me. She distinguished between buying forgiveness and amends. She assured me the money was unconditional and didn't expect me to forget years of rejection. She transferred funds when I needed them, and that was it. Unknown chest tightness eased. Our condition was bad. Possibly not for long, but we were honest. Madison asked me to compete in the 6-week state finals after debate practice on Tuesday. She needed to know who committed after our team qualified. Everything in my family was messy and complicated, so I almost declined. Family drama was about to steal another achievement, so I stopped. Mom didn't care, so I hid my achievements for 4 years. Mom cared, so I skipped state finals. It was ridiculous. I said, yes, I was in. Madison smiled and said she knew I wouldn't quit. We planned our arguments that afternoon. For 4 weeks, I focused on state finals. I studied for hours daily, practiced my speech in the mirror, and learned rebuttals from Madison. Mom asked my late-night activities. I told her about state finals, and she wanted to watch. I looked at her carefully and told her she could come, but she needed to understand this wasn't about her. This was about my team's achievements. She agreed and wanted me to do my best. I told her the tournament's date and location, even though I didn't believe her. The downtown convention center hosted state finals on a March Saturday. We favored social media regulation as public utilities. I prepared free speech, monopolistic power, and public interest arguments for weeks. We faced a suburban private school team in the finals after strong earlier rounds. I ended by explaining how regulation benefits society without stifling innovation. My voice was steady and my ideas clear. Madison screamed and grabbed my arm when the judges declared victory. Mom was crying in the second row when I looked up. Her not crying about what she missed or did wrong made it different. She cried because she saw me as I was, not as she expected. Mom hugged me post-awards. She trembled when she said she was proud of me. This time, she was sincere instead of boasting. Apologies for missing so many such moments over the years. I told her she could attend future events but not relive them. Wiping her tears, she nodded. I looked back to see Mom with a new face after Madison pulled me away to celebrate with the squad. She realized what she'd lost. Claire called that night while I was high from winning. She gasped and said the baby moved for the first time. Her voice trembled with excitement and fear. She thought stomach flutters were indigestion, but they kept happening. When she and Ethan moved into their new apartment, she asked me to help set up the nursery in 6 weeks. I agreed immediately. Claire cried and thanked me, saying she was worried about being a mom but felt better with me. I promised to help her and we'd figure it out. After we hung up, I lay on my bed, thinking about how much my life had changed in 8 months. Everything fell apart around Thanksgiving. Still, we made something new from the pieces. Claire and I went to Worcester Saturday morning. The apartment building was smaller than expected but substantial. Ethan answered the door with paint cans and brushes on nursery drop cloths. Claire treated the walls like precious in the small room with one window overlooking a parking lot. We painted it light yellow for hours because Claire wanted something neutral until they knew if the baby was a boy or girl. Claire and I covered the main walls while Ethan trimmed quietly. She joked that I could drive from Harvard to babysit on weekends between exams. I laughed, but then I wanted it and my chest moved. Rather than sending cards, I wanted to be the aunt who held this child and was involved in their life. Claire asked if I was okay after my silence. I told her I was thinking about how things would change in a few months when she had a fuller dependent. She put down her paint roller and said she was afraid but excited like never before doing anything Mom wanted. Ethan finished trimming and inspected our work. He appreciated my support when Claire's relatives were harsh. He said Claire's cousin stopped talking and an aunt told her to stop wasting her life. I studied him to dislike him for getting my sister pregnant and ruining her college dreams. He seemed sincere about Claire and the baby. We learned he worked full-time at a warehouse and attended community college at night. Graduate to improve his career and support his family. Claire leaning into him and staring at each other made me feel like I was on private property. I knew he loved her, not just got her pregnant and left. It was more crucial than expected. Olivia invited me to her going-away party 3 weeks before graduation. She invited all debaters and most classmates. Mom asked to come after hearing. I observed her waiting for my reply in the kitchen. I wanted to say no to hurt her like she'd hurt me for years, but I was tired of fighting and wanted one normal thing before college. She had to be a normal parent to attend. She found no reference to my achievements, no mention of her newfound pride. Show up as usual. She agreed quickly and comprehended. Olivia hosted the Friday night party. Her parents set up outdoor tables with food, drinks, and decorations. Friends laughed, took selfies, and planned college. Mom arrived on time with homemade cake. She watched from the party's edge as I interacted with everyone. She avoided conversations and statements. She stood facing me like she was seeing me for the first time. Madison hugged me and said she'll miss me on debate team next year. Olivia celebrated that I was going to Harvard and we would always be friends. Though crying, Mom remained silent. Mom helped me carry garbage bags to the curb after most guests left and we cleaned up. She said she didn't realize my popularity. She said watching me with my friends revealed how much I'd hidden. She shakily apologized for making me feel that way. Bright and hot, graduation day. Writing my second-ranked speech on seeing versus looking took 3 weeks. As I wrote, our closest friends may know us least because of their anxieties and assumptions. After much practice, the words came easily. Mom watched me give the speech in my cap and gown from the second row. Despite shaking hands, I spoke clearly. I explained that being glanced at means someone ignores you. Seeing means someone knows you better than expected. Everyone in our family knew Mom's name, even though I didn't. Mom cried during my speech. Family might visit her because of Thanksgiving and previous years. After I finished, Claire tightly clasped my hand and sat down. She whispered I was her bravest. I helped Claire and Ethan move into their apartment in Worcester the week after graduation. Most of their stuff fits in Ethan's and my truck. We sweated and tired carrying boxes up 4 flights of stairs in the heat. Ethan ordered pizza and we ate it from the box on their living room floor because they hadn't unpacked dishes. Although pregnant, Claire studied online for her degree. She insisted on graduating despite delays. She discussed her coursework and how she would work on it during her part-time bookstore lunch breaks. Ethan supported her and said they'd discuss the schedule after the baby arrived. I admired Claire for taking charge and not giving up. She looked at me and said, "Watching me stand up to Mom at Thanksgiving showed her it was possible to define yourself instead of accepting others' definitions." She said she forgot she could choose herself after being Mom's perfect kid. Being pregnant was a mistake, but it freed her from pretending. She was discovering herself, not what Mom wanted. Mom called 4 days before I left for Harvard. She requested family therapy again. I agreed, so we went to the therapist Thursday afternoon. A therapist asked us what we needed from each other going forward. Claire originally wanted space to figure out parenthood without constant criticism. Despite her struggles, Mom let Claire ask for help. Therapist faced me and nodded. "Mom, please let me make my own decisions as an adult." I needed her to trust me instead of judging me without evidence. She should have asked about my life instead of assuming she knew everything. Mom listened and said she understood when I finished. She said her conclusions were based on her worries and anxieties, not mine. She said she saw me in short skirts and parties and feared I'd repeat her childhood mistakes. Instead of seeing that I was nothing like her at that age, she blamed me for her regrets. The therapist wanted to know how unfair that was. Mom agreed. She looked at me and said it clearly. Therapists give homework after appointments. Mom recorded her assumptions and reality about me 3 times. Claire had to decline a minor request from Mom before our next boundary-setting session. Imagine a healthy relationship with Mom and list my needs. After booking another appointment for next week, we walked to the parking lot. Mom invited us to dinner, but Claire had to visit Ethan. I told Mom I had plans with friends but wasn't ready to eat with her. She looked hurt but nodded and said she understood. Claire hugged me before driving away and praised my therapeutic honesty. Watching Mom drive away left me hopeful and exhausted. Mom read her assignment next week. She wrote about thinking I failed math after getting the best AP calculus grade. She called me irresponsible for saving everything from my part-time job for college. Her assumption was that I chose my college degree arbitrarily despite exploring pre-law programs since sophomore year. After reading the last one, her voice broke, and the therapist asked how she felt. Mom regretted her many mistakes. Claire denied Mom buying baby items without asking. Mom apologized and asked Claire to show her favorites after being upset. Claire's therapist praised her persistence and asked how it felt. Claire was uneasy but appreciated Mom listening. I took out my mom needs list when it was time. I wanted her to ask about my life, not assume she knew everything. My achievements should be applauded, not ignored. I needed her to trust me to make good decisions and only advise when needed. She should stop comparing me to Claire. Mom listened uninterrupted to the list. She asked to respond after I finished. Mom looked at me as the therapist nodded. She listened and approved of my requests. Though she knew she couldn't heal years of damage overnight, she tried. She asked me to dinner with her once a week to practice getting to know me. After thinking, I said yes, but with conditions. I told her evenings were for discussing my life, not giving advice or comparing me to Claire. Mom agreed quickly. Claire said she needed something. She told Mom she needed time to figure out parenting without judgment. Mom's face showed she wanted to fight but stopped. She inhaled and said, "Okay." She asked Claire to wait to ask for help before giving advice. Looking shocked, Claire nodded and agreed. Ideal would be. The therapist smiled and called progress. She asked Mom about our limits. Mom agreed. She realized she controlled us in various ways. The critic criticized me to control me. She dominated Claire with praise. She didn't let us be ourselves. Her therapist asked what caused her control craving. Mom assumed it was from her mother after a long silence. Mom was harsh and nothing she did was good enough. She promised herself she'd be different with her kids, but she kept doing it. She cried and apologized for blaming us. First Claire stood and hugged Mom, then me. It was strange but lovely to hold her without animosity. The therapist let us have that moment and suggested honesty would help our family recover. She said Mom found something important to investigate. Mom wiped tears and said she wanted to. She told us she would continue treatment on her own because control and projection issues hurt her relationships with us. She tried to be a better mother and grandmother. I nodded as Claire held her hand. That was good, and the therapist could recommend a family of origin specialist. Mom noted the number and name. The therapist ended by saying, "Recovery takes time and setbacks are possible." She said task dedication was crucial. My mom hosted a celebration meal 3 weeks before I went to Harvard. She set up tables in our garden for extended family. She bought a "Congratulations, Harvard graduate" cake with red and white decorations. When they came, she had everyone say something they liked about me. Margaret said I was determined despite the awkwardness. Even when anxious, Diane said I sympathized with her kids. Other relatives said I helped or made them laugh. The yard fell silent as Mom held champagne last. Celebrate her misjudgment of me, she said. Because I dressed differently from Claire and loved fun for years, she thought I wasn't focused on my future. She said she missed many opportunities because she never questioned herself. Her voice shook when she said I'd done everything by working hard without her support. She thanked me for giving her a chance to improve after years of ignoring me. I hope she was proud of me as she lifted her glass. As everyone drank and clinked glasses, my throat tightened. Margaret stopped me by the backyard fence after dinner. She regrets not intervening more over time. She told me she tried to talk to Mom several times, but Mom was so sure she was right it seemed impossible. Margaret regretted not pushing hard. I told her I did not blame anyone for Mom's decisions and appreciated her effort. Margaret hugged me and promised to meet her kids instead of assuming she knew them. She said watching our family go through this made her ask more questions and make fewer assumptions. The 5.5-hour drive to Cambridge had Mom crying in the passenger seat every mile. She kept saying she couldn't believe I was going to college and how quickly time had passed. Claire and Ethan drove behind us with Sophie in her car seat. Claire updated me hourly on Sophie's first road trip. Students carrying boxes, parents taking photos, and school tour guides directing traffic greeted us in my dorm. Mom removed my first luggage from the trunk saying it was too heavy. She looked offended when I said I could handle it, but she didn't argue. After carrying everything up to my fourth-floor Harrington Hall room, I was sweating through my shirt. We found a long-haired black woman unloading boxes on the left. She turned around and smiled big when we entered. San Diego native, she wanted to study political science before law school. I introduced myself and said I was considering the same career. Our families unloaded while we debated Supreme Court decisions and strategy for 8 minutes. My roommate's parents were nice and joked about her talking about law school since she was 11. Mom watched me talk to my roommate from the corner and realized I had a whole world she didn't know about. My roommate immediately offered to carry Sophie when Claire entered. She gently bounced Sophie while telling us about her little brother back home and how much she missed him. Mom kept rearranging, but Ethan was patient while she set up my workstation. By late afternoon, the room was set up and both parents were taking photos of us outside the hostel. Mom asked if I was okay at the stairs. I told her I was fine and she nodded, but didn't move. She told me she was proud and hoped I knew. I said I knew and she hugged me. Claire hugged and suggested I call her often. Ethan shook my hand and said he was glad I could visit Sophie on weekends. I saw Mom get in the car and look at my building again before they left at 4:30 from my window. Dinner was pizza from my roommate, and we discussed high school and law school on our mattresses. She described her California childhood, I described my family. She heard without judgment and understood her mom's struggles. After my roommate fell asleep, I stared at the ceiling, thinking about how different everything seemed. Mom texted me at 10:40 to check on me. Texting back that I was fine and settled. Did I like my roommate? We share a lot, I told her. Mom responded with a love emoji, oddly having never used one. She asked if I needed anything and if classes started tomorrow. I answered her questions and she replied immediately. We texted about my wake-up and mealtime for 15 minutes. She asked questions and listened to my answers, not giving orders. She loved me and said to call tomorrow after I said goodnight. I put my phone down and realized this was the first meaningful conversation without criticizing my choices or comparing me to Claire. Quite unusual but pleasant. I got up early for freshman orientation the next day. To find our classes, my roommate and I walked around campus studying buildings. I chatted with the debate team at lunch. My high school coach told my junior team captain about my state finals performance. She wanted me to try out next week. I signed up immediately and got a practice schedule. Joining the pre-law society at another table. Student running the table said law school and company speakers spoke monthly. Coach pulled me aside after 4 debate team practices at the end of the week. She liked my arguments and understood why I did well in state finals. She wanted to see my performance in college, where competition was tougher. I was proud that someone recognized my ability based on my abilities, not my potential. Olivia kept contacting me about Yale. She emailed me university, roommate, and club photos. Following scheduling adjustments, we planned to meet. She emailed me one night to compliment my family management and arrival. She said many would have quit, but I continued. Claire emailed me Sophie photos daily. Sophie grew, and Claire looked more comfortable with her in photos. Claire texted that she was doing well in online classes. Ethan helped Sophie night feed while his parents monitored her in class so she could study. I saw her first essay grade, B+. Her enthusiasm was evident. Mom called mid-September to visit for Parents' Weekend. She asked what I wanted after I said it was okay. I offered to show her campus and have dinner with my roommate. It was unusual for Mom to accept without planning. On Saturday morning, I showed her my favorite colleges. She saw my debate team practice building and study library. She asked my roommate about family in California. Mom seemed genuinely interested in my debate team friends' dinner conversations. She inquired about their majors and goals without promoting herself. We toured Harvard Yard after dinner, and Mom said she read parenting and emotional intelligence books. She wondered what happened with Claire and me. She said she projected her worries onto us, not seeing us. Though she couldn't change the past, she wanted to improve. I knew I thanked her for trying. Repairing trust would take time, but I would work on our relationship if she tried. Mom nodded, understanding. She committed to therapy and self-improvement. Thanksgiving shifted our family dynamic. We met at Claire and Ethan's apartment, not Mom's. While Claire and I cooked in the small kitchen, Mom helped Sophie. We were honest despite our struggles and awkwardness. Dinner time, Mom asked Claire about her classes and listened. Claire asked about my debate competitions without assuming I was wasting time after explaining her learning. Claire showed me Sophie's bedroom after dinner. She closed the door and thanked me for rejecting Mom's treatment. We had to face our years-long dysfunction, she said. Sophie would grow up in a family that valued people over appearances, Claire promised. I carried my suitcase across Harvard Yard on the Sunday after Thanksgiving after flying back to Cambridge. New eyes changed how I saw the bare trees from August's nervous freshman eyes. Roommate from California unpacked her bags in our dorm. When she asked, I said my break was great. She noticed my shoulders relaxed. I didn't realize I was stressed until she said so. On Monday, my coach pulled me aside after debate drills. Over break, I changed my room-taking approach, she said. She asked if I stopped apologizing for my skill. I laughed because she was right. After years of shrinking to hide my success from Mom, I forgot how to live. Coach said Thanksgiving helped me and wanted to see that confidence in our next game. Finals week came quickly with many papers and exams. Other stressed students and I did 2 all-nighters in the library eating coffee and granola bars. My fear of pressure was unfounded. Years of secretly getting perfect grades and pretending not to care taught me self-motivation. I'd learned to endure fatigue and stress without support. Now that I was in a place that valued my work, the pressure felt manageable. On Friday afternoon, I finished my last exam and left, feeling like I'd run a marathon. We got pizza to celebrate surviving our first semester, and my roommate said she'd never seen anyone so focused during finals. I told her I practiced well. The following week, grades were released while I packed for winter break. I checked the student portal and saw a 3.85 GPA. Telling my roommate made her squeal and hug me tight. My fall competition performance earned me a spot on the varsity team for next semester, according to the debate coach's email. On my bed, I stared at my phone, deciding whether to call home or wait until I got there. Mom answered my third call. She cried differently after I told her about my grades and debate team. She was proud and knew I worked hard. She didn't brag about pushing me. She praised my work. Claire took Mom's phone and teased me about making her look bad again with my perfect grades. This time she laughed for real, and I could hear her happiness instead of her fake cheer for Mom. She promised Sophie the smartest aunt ever. I told her I'd be home in 3 days and excited to see the baby. I sat on my bed looking around my half-packed room after hanging up. This year was nothing like I expected when I left for college in August. Thought I was escaping my family and Mom's dysfunctional treatment of me. Instead, I forced us to be honest with each other for the first time. My family wasn't perfect, and we had to rebuild trust and communication. But we were building something real by seeing each other as we were, not as assumptions and projections we'd lived with for years. I packed my suitcase and texted Claire I'd be home soon. I knew I had earned everything in my future through years of hard work that nobody noticed. My heart was anchored by that knowledge. None could take it from me, diminish it, or claim credit. It was mine alone. That made it worth more than any praise Mom could have given me when I needed her attention.